This Parsha Podcast is dedicated in honor of a brand new couple, Avrami and Michal Feigenbaum. This is our niece and nephew. Michal used to be Michal Walby, and now she's Michal Feigenbaum because she married her husband this past week, this past Sunday, and I had the great privilege of being in New York for the wedding, and it was a delightful wedding. And we want to dedicate this podcast in their honor. May they build a beautiful home together and have a beautiful life together. Yeah, that's right. I went to New York this past week. It was an awesome trip. I had the privilege of going with my daughter, Miriam, which is always really special. And first we went to the natal wedding, and that was amazing. And then I got to spend time with my folks in New York and my brother in Jerusalem. He actually flew in with much of his family to join the festivities. 6 of his unmarried, or his 6 unmarried children came. The 4 married children stayed there. So I got to spend time not only with my parents, but also some of my Israeli siblings and nieces and nephews, some of the most wonderful, delightful people in the world. I got to spend Shabbos with my folks. I got to spend time in my old stomping grounds. And, usually when I travel, it's with the family and I have obligations and I can't just do what I want. And I'm on a clock and the kids don't let you do your own thing, But I had some really interesting experiences. I went myself, my daughter, but she's kind of matured. So I went to this minion factory. You don't know what a minion factory is. Minions are those little guys, those little yellow guys with one eye. No, not that guy. The minion, the Hebrew for minion, that's a reference to a prayer, a communal prayer. So next to my parents, there's this incredible minion factory, meaning you want to go pray with the community, with a minion, as it's known, with a quorum of 10. Well, here you have to go find the times. Where are the times? When did they start at 8? They start at 7. They start at 6:15. They start at 9. You go to a minion factory, whenever you go, whenever you show up. Whenever you show up, there's a minion at the ready. They start before 6 a.m. and they end at 11:30 a.m. every single day. And you come anytime, every 15 minutes is another minion. So if you show up at 9:45, there's a minion starting right then. 10:15, a minion starts right then. 7:30, right then. You're never late. And I had this very interesting experience because I get to my minion, and what do you know? There's a rabbi from Israel, and he's giving a lecture. He's giving a lecture in Hebrew, and there's someone there doing translation in English. And the topic was the evil eye. Now, what's the evil eye? It's a very mysterious thing. It's a subject that we actually spoke about, I think, a few times on the podcast. And this lecture that I heard may inspire me to do another one. But anyhow, a very long lecture, an hour and 15 minutes on the topic of the evil eye. And the rabbi ends the lecture and he says, I have a tradition from my great-grandfather, a very famous person. His name is Rabbi Aryeh Levine. And he received this tradition from this great sage, from that great sage, going all the way back to the Gaon of Vilna, all the way back to Elijah the prophet. And I have a tradition for how to remove the evil eye using various incantations. Now, when I was a little kid, my family once went to this known as the Ayin Hara lady, the evil eye lady. And what they do is they take like the sackcloth and they put it on top of you, and they take molten lead and they pour molten lead into an empty pot of cold water. And they say all these incantations. And then the images that emerge from that molten lead, if you have the evil eye, they'll turn to little eyeballs. And then they take the lead and they smash it. And thereby they eradicate the evil eye. That's what I went to, a little kid. Very interesting, very spooky. But this rabbi, he has a tradition of a whole different system of employing names of angels and forces and all these interesting tactics for how to remove the evil eye. And he's available to do it. Now, I'm not usually the kind of guy who jumps at these opportunities. So I was like walking away, not for me. And I said, you know what? Maybe I should look into this. So I turned around and I walked back. And he says, you got to call my guy. My guy's arranging all my appointments. Long story short, I made an appointment. I have this extra day in New York and you got no obligations. The Parsha Podcast was already done. And I went to the rabbi who has this very well-documented tradition, this provenance going all the way back to the Gaon of Vilna. I can't tell you what happened. It was very interesting. The rabbi said to me, your case is very, very, very rare. That's the nice thing about going on these trips. You don't know who you're going to meet. You have the opportunity of serendipitous encounters and the opportunity to do things that you can't do here. Like, for example, here in Houston, if you have a large Torah library and you really want to buy new books, I'm always on the prowl for new Torah books. And we don't really have a Torah bookstore here in Houston. So whenever I go to the Northeast, I like to visit some of the Torah bookshops. And when I'm there with the kids, they have a tolerance of maybe 2 minutes. You can browse for 2 minutes before some delightful prince comes and tugs at your pants and starts making haywire, making chaos. But I had plenty of time. I went to this bookstore, used Torah bookstore, with at least 100,000 books, maybe 250,000 books, massive. And I went there. I spent hours there. It was delightful. Got all these interesting books. But the highlight of this whole trip was this wedding. And I've been to many weddings before. I'd never been to such a wedding. So let me just paint the picture here. My new nephew, he's the oldest in his family. And he's not that old. I don't know if he's 22 or 23 or 24. He's a young man. But he's the oldest in his family. And it's a large family. Now, I'll tell you how large the family is, but you won't believe me. But this is true. 15 children. One father, one mother. 15 children. He's the oldest. And I'm looking at these kids. I'm like, they're all raised well. And they're all put together. And they're all delightful. I chatted with a whole bunch of them. That was just the first part. I don't remember a wedding like this. The energy, the excitement, the dancing, off the charts. And as you might imagine, I'm not much of a dancer. It's not exactly my thing. I don't know what is my thing, but it's not dancing. So I was watching. I was observing. I was acting as an observant. It was the most amazing sight. This young groom, our new nephew, he's very popular. Why? Because he's a really special person. And he makes everyone feel good. There were hundreds and hundreds of his friends by this wedding. And they're all yeshiva students, young rabbis. And they're dressed in their rabbinic garb. And they're dancing with insane energy. And I'm looking at this groom, and he's making sure that everyone feels noticed and appreciated. He's looking, I see him looking around. Who here needs to have some attention and some appreciation and recognition? Really, really special. I was by this wedding. I'm like, I've never been to a wedding like this before. I have a weakness. I like to leave things. Too much noise. A little bit of an introvert. Too much of a party. I couldn't leave this place. I couldn't leave. I was like the last person to leave. I was just enthralled and in awe of this experience. What a delight. What a privilege to go attend such a festive occasion. So I want to dedicate this Parsha Podcast in honor of this very special young couple. And we want to wish them to have a wonderful, happy, harmonious life together. A hearty mazel tov to the entire family, to the parents, to the grandparents. We're expecting a lot from this young couple. We're expecting great things, special, special people. It's Parshas Vayishlach, and we finally have the reunion of Jacob and Esau after 34 years. The parsha begins, Jacob sends messengers. He sends angelic messengers to go to Esau. Go check his temperature. How's he doing? These are actual angels. Jacob is dispatching malachim mamish, actual, real, legit angels. That's how the parsha starts off. Now, you may think that's kind of normal. We have a lot of things that are miraculous in the Torah. But as far as I know, there's no one else on record that has the ability to send angels. This morning I was thinking, is there any other example? I remember the Talmud. The Talmud tells us this crazy story about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and he sends a demon to Rome to go help him. But I can't think of any documented instance of someone sending angels to be their messenger. Usually the angel is a messenger of God. That's almost like the definition of an angel. A messenger of God. And here, Jacob, the human, sends angelic messengers. Now, what does this mean? So I think I want to suggest an idea. At the beginning of last week's parsha, you recall, Jacob goes to sleep, Mount Moriah. There's the ladder all the way to heaven, and his angels going up and going down, and he has a prophecy, and he has a blessing. And God promises, I will be with you. I'll be with you. And the Ramban explains, very profound. Typically, there is a certain breakdown, a certain hierarchy of the concatenation from heaven. Of course, God is above all. But then there's like the angels. They're closer to God, so to speak. And the humans, well, we're below the angels. Like the Rambam tells us that there are 10 different levels of angels. And the lowest level of angels are called Ishim, which means people, really, or men, because they're the ones who interface with humanity. Meaning if there's a message from God, so to speak, to a human, it filters down through all those levels of angels, from the highest level to the lowest level, and from there, it can reach the human. And God therefore sends the angels on these missions. We have a verse in Psalms that tells us that God commands the angels to guard and protect the righteous in all their paths. And therefore, the person is below the angel, so to speak. And the Ramban explains, when God told Jacob that I will be with you, he was informing him of something very profound. You're not going to be controlled at all by the angels. You're going to be higher than the angels. God himself will protect Jacob. He won't need a guardian angel. And therefore, the angels, well, they're not there to guard Jacob. God does that himself. Jacob is above the angels. His visage, our sages tell us, is etched into the throne of glory. And therefore, he's the only person that we have on record who is dispatching the angels himself. He is higher in the pecking order, so to speak, and therefore he has supremacy over the angels and can dictate to them what to do. He sends the messengers, the angels, to Esau, and they return with an ominous, foreboding message. Esau, he's on the way to you, and he has 400 warriors with him, and he's on the lookout for vengeance. Now, how did Esau know that Jacob was approaching? So one midrash says that when Jacob sent the messengers, he made Esau aware of his approach. And maybe he made a mistake, says the midrash. He shouldn't have reached out to Esau at all. Don't prod the lion. Don't goad the menace. Don't grab the lion by its ears. He made Esau aware of his existence, and that was a catalyst for Esau to come his way. And there's another midrash, very interesting. The second midrash tells us that Laban, who recently departed from Jacob, he sent a note to Esau, I couldn't tackle Jacob, but he's heading your way. Maybe you can do the job for me. They had a common enemy, Jacob. Laban was thwarted. He sent the message to Esau. Maybe you can do something to him. And I find it very interesting. We've spoken about this in the past. There's a certain symmetry between Jacob's exodus from Laban and the nation of Israel, Jacob's descendants, their exodus from Egypt. For one, Laban is always compared to Pharaoh. So Jacob is almost like enslaved by Laban. He has to leave. He has to flee. The Jews escape from Egypt. Pharaoh chases them. Jacob escapes from Laban, and Laban chases them. And both Laban and Pharaoh encounter the fleeing Jews 7 days later. And after the nation departs from Pharaoh and Jacob departs from Laban, there's a follow-up. Jacob has to encounter Esau, and of course, the nation has to encounter Amalek, Esau's descendant. Now, Jacob, when he finds out that Esau is approaching, he was fearful. He was distressed. Chapter 32, verse 8, Vayira Yaakov me'od. Jacob was very fearful, and he's very distressed. And he takes his camp and divides it up into two. This is a bit strange. Why is Jacob fearful? Why is he concerned? Didn't God promise him that he'll return to the land safely? By that aforementioned dream, the angels going up and down, God promised. This is chapter 28, verse 15. V'hinei anochi imach, I will be with you, God promised, and I will guard you. Wherever you go, I'll bring you back to this land. Jacob was promised. I will never leave you. I will never depart from you. Why is Jacob worried? Now that was 20 years prior. And now he's leaving, but only a few days prior. Chapter 31, verse 3, God again promised Jacob, I will be with you. Why is Jacob so fearful? And Rashi tells us, very interesting. He's fearful and he's distressed. He's fearful, maybe he will be killed. He's distressed, maybe he will be compelled to kill others. Even though Jacob may have grounds to warrant him killing Esau, self-defense, of course, Jacob understood prophetically that Esau is someone that will have a very glorious line emerge from him. Sages tell us that there were some very shiny diamonds that emerged from Esau. There's some converts from Esau that joined Jacob and made enormous impacts. For example, Rabbi Akiva, his father was a convert. He came from Esau, and he's the primary teacher of the oral Torah. And the primary author of the Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, also a descendant of converts. And Shammai and Avtalion, two of the Zugos, the teachers of Hillel, both converts. All these people came from Esau. So maybe that's why he was scared. Because if you kill Esau, you eliminate that line. Maybe he was scared he'll kill Esau and Isaac would be upset at him. Or maybe he was worried that he was vulnerable to Esau because Esau fulfilled 2 mitzvos that Jacob did not fulfill. Our sages tell us that there was never a person in history that fulfilled the mitzvah of honoring your parents like Esau did. In addition, Jacob had just spent 20 years outside of the land of Israel. Esau was living in the land of Israel. So the mitzvah of living in the land, that gave, or at least in that capacity, Esau had a leg up. So he was scared. And he takes steps to prepare for this encounter. He prepares for war. He prays, and he sends a tribute. 500 plus different animals, divided up into cohorts, all to mollify and bribe Esau to maybe shelve, to table his violent plans. Now, before the actual encounter with Esau, we read about the nocturnal struggle of Jacob and Esau's angel. Vayivaser Yaakov levado, Jacob was stranded alone. And a man fought with him until daybreak. And when the man saw he could not overpower Jacob, he dislocated his hip bone. And then he said, well, let me go. And Jacob said, I'm not letting you go until you bless me. Well, what's your name? Jacob. No longer will you be called Jacob. You're now Israel. Well, what's your name? Jacob asked. Lama ze tish'al lishmi. Why is it that you ask for my name? He blessed him, and he left. This man was actually an angel, the angel of Esau. Esau is a founder of a nation. The nation is known as Edom. In fact, the Parsha ends with the delineation of the chronicles and the chieftains of this nation. And every nation has an angel. At least every nation besides for ours. And Esau, well, he's the counterweight to Jacob. So his angel is the evil angel, the evil inclination, the angel of death. And Jacob was wrestling with this angel the entire night. And it was a stalemate. And Jacob managed to extract a blessing, the blessing of Israel. Now, what's the meaning of this? What does it mean that Jacob was fighting with an angel, the angel of Esau? What's the secret? It's obviously very profound, but there's a very interesting characterization found in the Talmud. The Hebrew word that the Torah uses for this struggle is vayavek, which means, and they raised dust. I guess it means if you fight and you're jostling with each other, you're sparring, you can raise dust. Vayavek, like the word avak, which means dust. And the Talmud tells us in the book of Chulin on page 91a, this teaches us that during this struggle, the dust from their feet ascended all the way to the throne of glory. This was a titanic struggle. And the dust from the scuffling, the sparring, and the dueling ascended all the way to the throne of glory. Now, what does this mean? I looked at one of the commentators, and he says, in this statement in the Talmud, there is a very profound secret, and it is not to be understood simply without any further depth and further analysis. And that's, of course, undoubtedly so. What does this mean? That the dust of the struggle of Jacob and Esau, Esau's angel, went all the way up to the throne of glory. Now, the angel, in the morning, he says, let me go, release me. Why did he want to be released? So Rashi cites a midrash that this angel wanted to sing to God. Since this angel was created, it had never had the opportunity to sing a song of praise to God. And now, today, this morning, the morning after that nocturnal struggle, now it's the time for this angel to go sing songs of praise. Now, it's obviously not a coincidence that the very morning after that night-long struggle with Jacob, that's the time for the angel of Esau to sing praise. And the commentary tells something very profound. What does it mean that an angel sings praise to God? That is a sign of its mission being completed. Esau's angel, this counterweight to Jacob, this sparring mate with Jacob, it concluded its mission that morning. What was its mission? So we may think that the angel of Esau, that the angel of death, that the evil inclination, its mission, God created to go defeat us. No. Its mission is not only to not defeat us, its mission is to struggle with us, and its ultimate mission is to be defeated by us. When did this angel complete what it was created to do? When it was overcome by Jacob. Its role is to be this formidable force that we have to fight and to lose. And this is the first time that it fulfilled its mission perfectly. The whole night, it was poking and prodding for any weakness and vulnerability in Jacob, and it found nothing. Jacob was invulnerable. Jacob won. That morning, it's time to sing praise. There's a force that the Almighty created. We call it the angel of Esau. We call it the Satan. We call it the angel of death, the Yetzer Hara, Uncle Sam. It's an emissary of God. It's an angel. And it's doing something which is beneficial. Without having something to counter, without something pushing us away, making the right choices would have no meaning. I've been told from very reliable people that when you lift weights, it's not easy. It's not easy. It could be even a bit painful. Certainly leg day, right? Everyone wants to skip leg day. It could be painful. But that's the point. The point is for it to be painful because that is what makes you grow. That is what gives you the ability to progress. The Yetzer Hara, the Talmud tells us, is tov me'od. God saw all that he made and it was good. It was tov. It was tov me'od. It was very good. Tov ze yetzer tov. When it says good, it's a reference to the good inclination. Me'od. When it says very good, that's the evil inclination. That's the angel of Esau. Because its job is to be defeated and to allow you to shine, to allow you to overcome it. When did this angel, for the first time, fully achieve its mission? That morning, it's time to sing praise. After overcoming Esau's angel, he finally reunites with his brother. After 34 years, the twins reunite. And Jacob bows 7 times before Esau, and Esau runs to him, and he hugs him, and he falls on his neck, and he kisses him, and they cry together. And there's different opinions as to the nature of this emotional outburst. Some say it was a genuine groundswell of emotional love. The evil Esau must work all that flattery and the tribute and the prayer. Others suggest that Esau was as hateful as ever, as vengeful as ever. And yes, the verse says he kissed him, but really he tried to bite him. He tried to bite him, says the Midrash, and miraculously Jacob's neck turned into a pillar of marble. And Esau's teeth fell out. And that's why he was crying. He was crying because of his teeth. And that's why, says the Midrash, if you look in a Torah scroll, on top of the word Vayishlach, which means, and he kissed him, there are dots. Don't misinterpret this as if he really kissed him. No. He tried to kiss him, or he pretended to kiss him, but really he had something more nefarious planned. This is still Esau the wicked. At least that's the other opinion. And then Esau says, well, I don't want the tribute. I have so much. Yesh li rav. And Jacob says, I have everything. Yesh li kol. And you have to take the tribute. Okay, fine, if you insist. And then after Esau accepts the gift, he says, well, why don't we get together? Let's be a big, happy, harmonious family. And Jacob says, no, it's not a good idea. The children, they're young, they're tender, the flock is young and tender. I'll get to you eventually. We'll get together Thanksgiving. I'll make it to Mount Seir eventually. And our sages tell us, even though we have no record of Jacob actually fulfilling his word, he was, in fact, prophetically foretelling that there will be a time where Jacob goes to Mount Seir. The last showdown, the final showdown before Messiah. So when Jacob marches up Mount Seir and has that much anticipated and awaited final encounter with Esau. Esau, you waited 34 years for me to come back from the house of Laban. And you've waited on Mount Seir for 3,400 plus years. We'll get there sometime soon. I assure you, The parsha ends with Jacob's travels. He lived in Sukkot for 18 months. Then they moved to Shechem. We have the episode of Dinah. Jacob and Leah's daughter Dinah is assaulted, is raped by Shechem, son of Hamor, the crown prince of the city of Shechem. So it's confusing. Shechem is a person and a place. Jacob is stoic when he discovers what happened. The brothers, they don't take this sitting down. They plot, they scheme. Sure, you could intermarry amongst us. You'll be just like us. Just circumcise. 3 days later, they're all incapacitated. And Shimon and Levi, with their swords, slaughter every guilty person in the city and take Dinah back. The Midrash gives us an interesting epilogue to the story. Dinah was actually impregnated by Shechem. And later on in Genesis, we actually meet, Mercedes tells, the progeny of Dinah and Shechem, a young woman named Asnas, and she married Joseph. Now, how did the daughter of Dinah end up with Joseph? Well, Dinah was pregnant. And the brothers said, we killed Shechem and Hamor and all the guilty perpetrators of this crime. We want to kill this baby too. We want to get rid of this blight, this insult. And Jacob made her an amulet that protected her and sent her down to Egypt with an angel. See that again, he employs angels with ease. And there she was adopted by Potiphar and Mrs. Potiphar. Why? Because he was a eunuch. Couldn't have children of their own. And eventually, Joseph marries Asnas, daughter of Potiphar, meaning adopted daughter of Potiphar, but actually biological daughter of Dinah and Shechem. And that's why, when the allocation of the land is given out, the tribe of Joseph end up with the city of Shechem because they are the rightful owners, because they're the only surviving child of Shechem and of this family is actually the one that married Joseph. After the episode of Dinah and Shechem, Jacob and co go to Beit El and then to Hebron, and they reunite, of course, with Isaac. On the way to Hebron, Benjamin's born, Rachel dies, and the parsha ends with the lineage and genealogy and chronicles of Esau. The final 40-plus verses detail the vast families, the vast chronicles of Esau, his wives, his children, his grandchildren, great-grandchildren, a series of mighty chieftains and warriors. It's year 10 of the Parsha Podcast. It's time to go backstage. Esau, we meet him again. We thought we left him behind. Parshas Toldos. Torah spends so much time talking about this. Jacob and Esau, we learn about them, we read about them when they're still in utero. And the whole story, it's Jacob and his brother. And they're fighting already in utero, but then they emerge and they look very different. And he's grabbing onto his ankle, and Jacob is wholesome and he dwells in the tent, and Esau is a man of the field, and Isaac loves Esau. Why? Because he provides the trapping in his mouth. And Rebekah, well, she loves Jacob. And the two boys mature and they depart in different directions. And we have the episode of the lentil soup and the sale of the birthright and the usurpation of the blessings, and Jacob has to flee. All of Parshas Toldos, 2 weeks ago, it's a storyline of Jacob being in conflict with his brother Esau. And then all of Parsha Vayetze is another conflict. His uncle, his father-in-law, Laban. And now again, we're back where we started. Jacob once again has to confront his vengeful brother Esau. Obviously, the Torah wants us to spend a lot of time with this character. There's something for us to learn from Esau, from Laban, from Lot, all these supporting characters, if you will, of the Torah. I want to suggest or share a very powerful idea with a powerful lesson with a surprising beginning. The Talmud tells us that in the future, Esau the wicked will wrap himself up in a talus, in the garb of a talus, and he will sit in heaven, in paradise with all the righteous. You'll have this very unusual thing. All the righteous and Esau the wicked. What's he doing there? Continues the Talmud. And then God will drag him out of there. And quotes a verse, even if he is as high as an eagle, even if he's even higher, he's amongst the stars. From there, God will bring him down, will drag him down. Fascinating teaching in the Talmud. Esau is together with all the tzaddikim, with all the righteous people. And the righteous people themselves, they're cool with it. They don't expel him from their midst. And God, so to speak, he drags Esau out. Esau doesn't want to leave. He's fighting. He's resisting. He is stating his claim to be a legitimate, worthy member of that group. Esau, on some level, belongs amongst the righteous. The righteous people, the legitimately righteous people, when they see Esau, they think that he maybe belongs. Only God recognizes that Esau does not belong. Only God expels him. Let's explain. Isaac was no lightweight. Isaac is one of the forefathers, a prophet on the highest order. And he loved Esau because of the trappings in his mouth. Now, on the most simple, basic level, that means that, Esau was a hunter, and he would trap the animals, and he would feed the barbecue to his father, and that's why Isaac loved him. Rashi, of course, goes a step further, a much more sophisticated view in that verse. Esau would trap his father with his mouth. The word trappings doesn't mean the catching of food, it means like the deception. He would deceive Isaac with his mouth, because he would say, how do we tithe hay? How do we tithe salt? And he gave Isaac the impression that he was really righteous. He deceived him. He trapped him with his mouth. The Kabbalists go a bit further. We know that Esau was not condemned to be wicked. He maybe should have become as great as Jacob, and maybe even greater. The plan was to have 4 forefathers: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Esau. And they would marry the 4 matriarchs: Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah. Jacob was supposed to marry Rachel. And of course, Esau was supposed to marry Leah. But Jacob and Esau were different. They were completely different. And notwithstanding their differences, they each had a path towards superstardom. Jacob naturally gravitated towards the scholastic. He wanted to be in the tent. He was a wholesome person who dwelled in the tent. And that was his path of ascent to achieve his status as a patriarch. What was Esau's path? He was a man of the field. What was his path? His path was the trappings. Trappings, that's a reference to what could have brought Esau to great heights. He could maybe deceive and trap the evil inclination. Wow. Could you imagine something like that? The evil inclination, he's so clever and wild. Be more clever and wily than him. Outfox the fox himself. Could you imagine deploying such a tactic? Trapping, deceiving the evildoers? Using his penchant to be a man of the field, to be a trapper for good? In the words of the Kabbalists, there were sparks within Esau, sparks of holiness that could have propelled him to absolutely astronomical heights. And the Torah defines those sparks as trappings. Trappings weren't the problem. The problem was that the trappings were in his mouth. He never absorbed them. He never swallowed them. He never actually became who he was. Esau achieved stupendous greatness. But it was all in his mouth. It was all external. It was all superficial. Jacob was tam, he was wholesome. Wholesome means complete, it means perfect. Kilibo, kain piv. His heart and his mouth were indistinguishable. There was a parity between what was inside and what was outside. If you looked at just the external of Jacob and Esau, how should I just tell us? From the perspective of the external, Jacob and Esau were equal. They were the same. Both titanic personalities, worthy of being patriarchs. Now, they used different paths. Jacob used his path and Esau used his path, the trappings of holiness. But the problem was that it was in his mouth alone. Jacob was complete inside and out. He was wholesome. There was parity between what was inside and what was outside. Esau, his trappings, his path to achieve greatness was befiv, was only in his mouth. He was great, but it was all external. It was all superficial. And the Talmud tells us that even in heaven, all the righteous are present. They're all dwelling in paradise. And Esau is wrapped in a prayer shawl. And he's sitting amongst them. And he feels like he belongs. And the people there also feel like he belongs. Why? Because he's great. Externally, he's as great as Jacob. Now, of course, no one would confuse the two. Of course, they're very different. But the righteousness externally of the two is the same. Jacob was the righteous tent dweller, and Esau appeared to be the righteous trapper. The Torah is able to see, God is able to see that the trappings were in his mouth. They were only external. Only God knows what's actually happening inside a person. So God himself will come and drag him out of paradise. And Esau is kicking and screaming. He feels like he belongs there. And the righteous themselves, the people that are there, they agree. But God knows what's happening in someone's heart. And he comes and drags away, removes Esau. I think if we broaden the story of Esau, this is like the central theorem of Esau. He's Mr. Superficiality. If you read a storyline and you don't look at the commentaries, you can make an argument that everything he does is actually very righteous. Like Rashi tells us, he's asking, how do we tithe salt and hay? It's a very advanced question. It's worthy of a great scholar to ask. He sells his birthright. The Torah tells us, the Torah reveals to us, that he belittled the birthright. Vayivez Esau v'zabachora. He belittled it. There is a way that we could have understood otherwise. We could have understood that Esau had such tremendous fear of heaven. He didn't trust himself. He was so humble and pure. He didn't trust himself with the awesome responsibility of doing the service in the temple that was done by the firstborn. And that's why he forfeited his birthright. His aversion to that office of greatness was actually a mark of righteousness. I'm not worthy enough. That's what he would have said. His mouth was righteous. Maybe even his head. After all, his head is buried in the cave of the patriarchs. His flaw is invisible. It's in his heart. Esau could have been one of the greats, but instead, he became the embodiment of evil. We read, and this is Parsha, we read about the struggle of Jacob and the minister, the angel of Esau. His story evolves to the point this week that he's like this personification of evil. And when we read Jacob's struggle with this angel, it's the instructions for how to relate to this most formidable of foes. So we see, for example, Jacob doesn't defeat the angel. He just outlasts him. You wait till the morning, you win. In the morning, the job is done. The angel sues for peace. What's your name? Oh, my name is Jacob. Well, no, it's no longer just Jacob. Now it's Israel. You wrestled with and you defeated the evil inclination. Well, what's your name? What does the angel respond? It's a perfectly legitimate question. Exchanging pleasantries here with the angel of Esau. I'm Jacob. Nice to meet you. What's your name? The angel seems to brush him off. Lama ze tish'al me. Why are you asking me for my name? Seems like the angel doesn't want to tell him his name. But the truth is, the angel is answering the question. Very profound idea. What actually is the name of the angel of Esau? What is the name of the evil inclination? What is the name of this force that we can call the evil inclination? The angel of Esau, the angel of death, the Satan, Uncle Sam. The essence is, the name is, don't ask questions. Don't ask me for my name. Just take it at face value. Don't probe. Esau's service of God, the trappings, it was superficial. And he became this representation of evil. And now we meet this angel of Esau, and it's all about superficiality. Why do you ask my name? That's his name. The essence of the Yetzer of the evil inclination is to avoid inquiry. Don't ask who or what it is. If someone were to ask, and not stop asking, ask and ask and ask and ask and go deeper and deeper and deeper until you find out what it is, then you've defeated it. The angel of Esau is telling us that people make very foolish decisions because they don't truly investigate what it's all about. What's my name? My name is don't ask. Because if you do, you'll find out there's nothing there. It's all sizzle, no steak. It's all smoke and mirrors. So Esau is Mr. Superficial in his service of God, and his angel is like, just look at the surface. Don't ask too many questions, because then I'm completely vulnerable. And Talmud tells us when these two were struggling, the dust ascended all the way to the throne of God. Well, how high is that? That's way past Elon's satellites. Where is it? How high did this dust actually go? Commentaries say, well, it's a secret. Obviously, it's a secret. The service of God of Esau is superficial. The trappings were only in his mouth. The role of the angel of Esau is to tempt people by showing them this veneer, this superficial patina. Just what you see. Don't ask questions. Don't ask me my name. And the essence of the struggle is that the dust ascends and goes all the way to the throne of glory of God. We know that the evil inclination is known as the foreign God. What does it do? How could you have a foreign God? There's only one God. What does it do? It covers it up. There's truth and it covers it. Don't ask my name. Don't look. Just take it at face value. Don't investigate any further. I'm going to obfuscate the throne of glory of God. There's only one reality, and that's God. The only independent reality. Everything else is dependent. There's only one creator, God Almighty. Everything else was created by him. And he's the only real existence because all other existence is conditional, is dependent existence. Esau is all about showing us just something, a fog of war, that little smoke screen to conceal it. The dust is covering up, so to speak, the throne of God. That's Esau. His role began very early on. First thing we read about him, he's fighting with Jacob. And his service of God is superficial. His whole interaction with the world is superficial. Give me this red stuff. And we meet his angel and we see superficiality on steroids. What's your name? What's your essence? I'll tell you what it is. Don't ask me my name. Just follow my orders. To ask is to penetrate the smoke screen, to probe beyond the surface, beyond the superficial surface. The only way it can endure is if people don't ask that question. Its power is only in the fog of war. Its power is only because people take it at face value. And they refrain from pondering further. To sin is to capitulate to the angel of Esau and to fail to realize that it's nothing. It's nothing. Its power is only because no one asked the question, what is your name? What are you all about? What are you offering me? What are you selling me? What will I get if I hearken to you? Spell out step by step. The dust goes all the way to the throne of glory, the obfuscation, the smoke screen. It covers up, so to speak, the existence of God. It's superficial, squared. This is the storyline of Esau. His service of God, the trappings are in his mouth alone. In our service of God, it's not enough to just play a righteous person on TV, to talk the talk and walk the walk. The real mark of the righteous person is invisible. Jacob and Esau externally were equally righteous. It's a frightening statement. But Jacob was wholesome. His mouth and his heart were in sync. To have your mouth, the external, be righteous, Esau did that. What we are seeking is where your heart, your internal, is equally righteous. The heart and the mouth, the inside and the outside, are indistinguishable. The angel of Esau is the utero, and it's just using all the methodology of Esau. It obscures its essence. It's really selling you nothing. Emptiness, vacuousness, and futility. And that's the name of the game. Don't ask questions. Don't try to figure out where this will bring you to. Because if you do, it's completely feckless and empty, defanged of its seemingly unlimited power. Esau, this is what he does. The food, just the red stuff. But wait a minute, don't you realize it's lentils? Abraham died today. There's a bigger story behind the picture. No, it's just red stuff. Pour it down my throat. That's why his name is Edom. That's why the Parsha ends with a delineation of the families and the genealogy and the chronicles of Esau. And again, we're reminded he is Edom. And we're encouraged to make sure that we are aware of his tactics and his methodology, and that we make the powerful choice to follow the ways of Jacob, our forefather, Kilibo Cain Piv, whose heart was like his mouth. I was able to understand exactly what Esau was all about, navigate around that, and managed to depart from Esau forevermore. And yes, there'll be one more time in the future where they will once again have a showdown, and we're hoping to maybe be privy to that. May it come sometime very soon. I appreciate you listening to this Parsha podcast. We're making big progress throughout the book of Genesis. We did already Bereshis, Noach, Lech Lecha, Vayera, Chayisara, Toldos, Vayitze, Vayishlach. We're 8 weeks into year 10 of the Parsha podcast. We're trying to go a bit backstage, behind the scenes, the story behind the story of the Parsha. I hope you're enjoying it at least 5%. 5% of how much I'm enjoying it from the Torch Center in Houston, Texas. Have a wonderful day, a sensational, amazing rest of your week. And of course, a delightful and magnificent and triumphant and exhilarating and exciting and ecstatic Shabbos upcoming. And please God, we'll talk again. Yes, that's right. Next week, please God, for the Parsha Podcast from the Torch Center in Houston, Texas. And as always, my email just says rabbi@gmail.com.